Mark Sanchez not expecting it, and it was the backside of Brandon Moore that knocked the ball out. Marino takes the snap from center. He's looking. He throws. Touchdown Dolphins. Mark Ingram. They caught the Jets off guard on that play. They have hands on their hips. The Jets are dumbfounded. They have to get in the end zone. And Kelly now turns and says that he can't hear. He's going to run it. Touchdown. They win on the last play of the ball game. Don Shula, he's got to be a little disappointed. Just a moment ago, the guy who handles the little brush machine came onto the field to make a place for John Smith to spot the ball. There you see it. That slash mark at the right of your screen. He just drove out onto the field and made the spot.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the AFC East Bros podcast. Kyle and Gary talking all things AFC East. In about 10 minutes or so, Ron Canniff from Unsquish the Fish will be joining us to talk some Dolphins. One thing that Gary and we criminally undertalk, do not talk about the Dolphins enough. Maybe it's not criminal, though. Maybe they haven't earned the right to be talked about enough. But nevertheless, our show is the AFC East. So we're going to do the Dolphins their due diligence and get on a Dolphins podcast, sure, a good one at that, to talk some Dolphins shortly. So, Gary, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Kyle. No complaints here. Like I said, we're getting into my favorite portion of the season, and that is free agency and the NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it can be your favorite part of the season, but
you know what? You know why it's my favorite? It's because when optimism's at its peak, I think when you start building your team, hearing the prospects, hearing the free agents, you know.
I mean, I hear you. Optimism is at its peak. You know, the draft is certainly really exciting. It's always kind of cool to see new pieces come. You know, there's just that element of, well, you know, changes on the horizon. And, you know, people are always chasing something in life. You know, whatever it might be, more money, you know, a closer connection with their family, if they have religious beliefs, whatever. So people are always chasing something is the point. And, you know, when you're in the middle of the season and it looks like it's going nowhere, it's kind of hard to really be in that chase mode. But I guess when you just hired a new coach and you got $50 million, $60 million of cap space to spend, you got 10 picks in the draft, you're kind of in that chase mode, you know. So anyway, I could definitely see why it's your favorite part of the season, but to me, there's nothing else like actually watching games.
Yeah, but Kyle, the season for a Bills fan is mostly a big letdown, so.
Yeah, and then it's been the case for you for quite some time now.
Correct.
In your adult life, the Bills they've had their winning seasons here or there, but no playoff appearances.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's see. Before we get Ron on, we got about another 5 minutes or so before he calls in. Anything that you want to get to?
Well, Kyle, I mean, a few things we got to discuss. And, you know, one being that we now have this whole offseason coming up. We're going to be dialing in on free agency coming up soon. That's the next step. But as far as, Kyle, did you get a chance, by the way, to watch the East-West Shrine game or the Senior Bowl? We didn't comment on that at all.
I watched neither of the games. I did watch some of the Senior Bowl practice session, but not even all that much. I was dialed into listening to coverage of the Senior Bowl, what prospects stood out, who looked good, who didn't look so good. But to say that I put my own eyes on it in great detail, no, I did not.
All right. Well, You know, of course, that's what I love watching is college prospects, especially when they're in an environment where they're going against each other in a practice setting and in a game setting. I'll tell you this right now, Kyle. The East-West Shrine game, one name that really caught my eye, and he's not really high on people's draft boards because, you know, he's from a really, really small school, Stony Brook in New York. And this is a defensive end. He played primarily defensive end. He's very undersized. He's only 6'1", 244. And that's the guy, his name is Victor Achi. I want you to look him up. You won't see anything on YouTube, but he had a hell of a week in practice, and during the game, he was unblockable. So I think he's going to be an awesome rush linebacker. He's one of these unknown gems, and they're giving him a 5th to 6th round grade, even after his stellar performance at the East-West Shrine game. Wouldn't mind seeing this kid in a Bills uniform, Kyle. I wish you would have watched some of that game because you really would have got a good feel for the kid. I just had to shout that out because I just thought his performance he looked like Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware out there.
Wow. And obviously he's going against inferior competition. Probably doesn't have the natural raw ability of either of those two guys, but
you got to think about it. He's like Stony Brook. He steps out and he plays D1 athletes. He's playing kids from, Florida and Florida State and Oklahoma. Coming from Stony Brook, you don't get exposed to that.
Yeah. This talk, you said he's an edge rusher guy?
Edge rusher.
What was the name of that guy from Auburn? He was killing it at the Senior Bowl a couple years ago. Bills picked him up as an undrafted free agent.
Oh, Antonio Coleman.
Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, he spent a few years on the Bills, then he went to the Giants, then he fell off the league. There's a reason why you're going to be an excellent college player. We've seen this many times. Tim Tebow probably being the most in recent case. I mean, he had an awesome record at Florida. Guys like Eric Crouch, the Oklahoma quarterback. I can't think of his first name. White was it? Jason White. You could be the best college player, Kyle, but if you don't fit what the pros are looking for, forget about it. You're nothing.
So what exactly about his game didn't translate to the NFL? Because I guess it's understandable why a quarterback could be.
Well, when you're that small, you're 6'1", 250 pounds. That's not big for an end. I mean, Doomerville, there's ends out. There's rush guys out there that are not huge. Even Von Miller's not an imposing guy, but he doesn't have quite the burst. I think a lot of his plays came from hustle plays.
Yeah.
So there's something when you're that size has to separate you as far as, when Aaron Maven was coming out, we'll go back to another Bills. He was credited by having an awesome get-off. He'd have an awesome burst out of the line. Antonio Coleman didn't have that. But this guy, Victor Achi, he does, man. I'm telling you, he has an incredible burst. And he has a lot of power. For only 244 guys, he uses his frame real well. He converts that speed into power.
Mm-hmm. That brings me to another edge rusher that was recently signed to a futures contract. The Jets signed a guy by the name of Freddie Bishop. I haven't really watched all that much of him yet. Watched a couple of his CFL highlights. I'm trying to remember what school he went to. Smaller school. Played college ball. Had some time in the NFL. I believe he was with the Lions for a little bit before getting cut. But apparently 10 or so teams, among them the Patriots also being interested, were trying to sign this guy. And not the fact that the player they are, But Cameron Wake is another guy who had success coming from the CFL.
Yeah, I can't know too much about this guy. What I could say is that I know the teams were vying for his services, but who knows, how many players were successful coming from the CFL to the NFL? There's not many,
Not many. Your guy, Fred Jackson, he was in the CFL, right?
No. He went to the European NFL, what's it called? The European leagues.
That's correct.
But he had to be signed to an NFL team to do that. But no, he came from arena football.
Yeah, you're right. Let's get our buddy Ron Canniff on from Unsquish the Fish. Ron is on the line. Ron, this is Kyle and Gary. How you doing this evening?
Hey, good, guys. What's going on? I'm finally on, man.
Finally.
My fault, not yours. Definitely my fault, not yours for sure on that one.
I don't know about that, but you're a busy guy. You're a family man.
Yes.
You have one daughter, Ron, or you have multiple kids?
I have a son and a daughter. A son who's almost 15, he'll be 15 in about a week, and a 11-year-old little girl.
Wow.
Good stuff, man. So, Ron, as I told you, you can go back and check the history of the tweets. Loved your show, and I actually said this last week. I don't know if you listened to our show last week, but you had this ultimate sense of optimism going into Week 1. You said there's nothing like Week 1 of NFL football.
Yeah, referring to last year, right? Yeah.
Correct. Week 1 against Washington. You could just hear the excitement in your voice. And you guys ended up getting the win, hearing your show shortly after the game. But you were a little bit disappointed. And, as the weeks progressed, you got more and more disappointed. And eventually, after your podcast on the upcoming Texans game, you stopped publishing episodes. And
yes.
So why don't you just take us through why that's the case? Because you were up there. You were one of the top Dolphins podcasts. I'm sure you're still up there. And I will say this. I loved your show so much. Every week I kept checking my podcast feed. Well, maybe he uploaded a show now. So anyway, Ron, why'd you stop? And by the way, let's just preface this by Ron is coming back. He's got some new episodes coming out this month, correct, Ron?
I'll have a new episode out. Episode 1 for the 2016 season will be out Thursday. I'm recording it tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm starting new episodes again for the 2016 season. Thursday I'll have the first one out.
Nice. All right, Ron. Well, we got to know. We got to know why the absentee. Why did you leave your Dolphins fans, us, clamoring AFC East fans, high and dry midway through the season?
I gotta say, man, beyond a little bit of life stuff that got in the way. Obviously, I could have really worked around that life stuff if the motivation was there, but I set myself up as a Dolphins fan in general. Let's pretend I didn't even do a podcast. I set myself up for a huge disappointment. Oh, did I think that the Dolphins were – I got to be honest with you. I thought we were going to be Super Bowl contenders last year. I really bought into everything the Dolphins were selling us. I bought into all of it. And I even sold myself on some extra stuff that I wasn't buying into. And even right as the second quarter of the first game, and in front of my eyes I was not seeing what I thought I'd see, I could just started getting more and more disappointed as the season goes on. And we fired Philbin, and then they came out, they hired, Man Campbell, and we destroyed Houston, we destroyed Tennessee. But I kind of knew, in a way, it was something false about it. It was all going to come crashing down when we played the Patriots, and it definitely happened. I mean, they didn't even really hang on for a little bit against the Pats, and it just was so ugly. I was just so crushed and disappointed in the team. I could not get motivated to get behind that mic and talk about the Dolphins. And I shouldn't have done that because I'm a diehard fan and I created a show and I love the show, and that's why I'm starting it back up again. But let me tell you, I'm starting it back up with a whole different mindset. Not necessarily negative, but just hopefully a little bit more even-keeled and a little bit more sensible and realistic about what the Dolphins are going to bring us for 2016, and that's even before we've done a free agent move. We've cut a couple guys so far. That's about it. We don't know. There'll be others we cut. There'll be free agents we pick up, obviously, because we're the Dolphins and we can't help it. And, we've got the draft coming up and all that. I will not be sold on any move that's going to be the difference this year. I'm in a wait-and-see pattern. I think that'll help me when I'm doing, especially if I'm doing the shows, when the expectations being a little bit more realistic, I won't just crash, because it's like you come off this big high and you just fall off the cliff is really what happened.
Yeah. You talk about buying into everything that the Dolphins were selling you, and this is a statement that goes back to maybe 2009, 2008-ish. Gary's always called Mike Tannenbaum a used car salesman. So were you even buying into the Mike Tannenbaum used car salesman pitch?
No, because for a Dolphins fan, it's the same pitch ever since we've had Stephen Ross. He just found a better face for the same pitch. It's going to be about we're just a few pieces away. We even heard Marino like 2 weeks ago say, the Dolphins are a few pieces away. I don't know if you really believe that or if you're just saying it because that's part of what you're trying to sell us. That's your job now that you're with the team. But he's just a better face and a better salesperson of the same pitch, that the Dolphins are a few free agents away, a couple good draft picks, and we're right in there. Not this year, unfortunately. Even with a new coach, especially with a new coach, we don't know what to expect. We've got holes, guys. We got holes in this roster. I mean, it's bad. We have so much issues on the defensive side of the ball, believe it or not. We have so many holes to fill. And no depth. I mean, just zero depth on this team. They're not going to fix it with a couple good free agents with Gerard Mayo, who I don't know, by the way, if you guys heard that Mayo's no longer going to be with New England. He just tweeted it out. And we need a linebacker, and we go get Forte, and then we draft a couple guys, and it's kind of what we did last year with Sue and all that. It's the same pitch. Tannenbaum, he loves to spend that money, and Ross loves to spend that money. Those guys are the perfect pair for that. I mean, he's going to bring you up to the end of the cap. As a Jets fan, you know that. So he's going to just destroy your cap and mortgage the future trying to win some games now, but we're just too far away for that. We shouldn't be doing that. So I didn't necessarily buy it just because of Tannenbaum. I just bought it in general, I guess.
Yeah. I was actually going to go ahead.
One thing I want to say about Tannenbaum is what I never liked about him, and I'm seeing similarities. Kyle doesn't like that. I'm striking a chord that the Jets see in McCagnon. He kind of did the same thing that Tannenbaum did. I'm not a big fan of signing older free agents. I don't like it. You mentioned Forte, you mentioned Mayo. Those guys are on the latter part of their career. I wouldn't be thrilled with those signings if I was a Dolphins fan.
I won't be. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Last year I'd have been, we're doing it. This year, let's say, put it to you this way. If we signed Mayo, I'm just giving you a couple of examples. If we signed Mayo and we signed Forte, but we kept Lamar Miller, which I think is something we must do, and we still went aggressively at linebacker in the draft, like say we draft Ragland from Alabama, for example, or somebody like that, and we still went on as if those guys weren't there, then I'm okay with it. There's some stopgap guys. I don't know if I love spending the money because we're just cap tight. They're going to do some things to help relieve that, but they're mortgaging it to sending it to the future. I'd rather save the money for the future years for when Sue's going to cost us $27 million in 1 year. So I'm okay if it's stopgap. But if you let Lamar Miller go and sign Forte, I'm going to be angry. And that isn't normal for me because normally I'll buy into that. But now I finally see the flaws of what the Dolphins have been doing. And that's a perfect example of why the Dolphins are 6-10, 7-9, 8-8 every year. They don't keep their own guys. They let their own guys go. Good guys. I mean, you heard a guy like Vernon Davis, one of the better, Sean Smith, what big-time free agent. We drafted those guys together. They should both be Dolphins, a tandem cornerback. Quarterback tandem that just eating people alive. But instead we let them both go for scheme fit, and we went and got, this guy and that guy. And last year we got, Bryce McCain, and he was horrible. And we got Grimes, who's been good. I can't complain about that move, but it's just hit or miss with us and the free agents. We missed on Wallace. We missed on Brandon Marshall. That was a trade, not a free agent. But it goes on and on for the Fins. I mean, even Sue wasn't even a Pro Bowler last year. 114 million, didn't even make like the third cut of the Pro Bowl. I mean, come on. It's just the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, Kyle and I were talking about that a couple weeks ago, how Sue kind of gets lost on the tape. You know, you turn it on, you expect this J.J. Watt caliber player with the money he's getting paid, and J.J. Watt stands out every play, and Sue, even the plays away from him, yeah, he's not beating this guy up. He's staying blocked. You know, I don't want to.
Yeah,
I'm not calling him.
At least in Miami, he is.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's, you know, Albert Hainsworth material, but you know, you want to see a little bit more when you're ponying up that much money. You know.
You want to see a lot more. You want to see that kind of money. You want to see one of the best defensive tackles that have ever played.
Yeah, you want to see a guy.
That's what we bought.
You want to see a guy who's creating havoc in the backfield, you know, causing plays to run away from him, run away from his side. But, you know, it's Sue. It wasn't that. He wasn't bad, but it's not what he was. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze, in my opinion, for the Dolphins organization.
So far, definitely not. I mean, we're still a long ways to go on it.
Right.
I won't say I'm hopeful. I'm just going to kind of see what happens this year, but definitely not for last year. We didn't get anything close to the value of what we paid for him, and that hurts. That hurts when you're spending that kind of money.
You brought up an interesting point about Vontae Davis and Sean Smith. You know, I'm all on board. I always tell Kyle, you know, I'd rather keep our own. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers, Green Bay Packers model. Draft well and re-sign them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, two guys like that, two good corners. I know you mentioned Brett Grimes. We're not very high on Brett Grimes on our show. I don't know if you listened in the past.
He had an off year last year. The past few years, he was money. I mean, trust me, I saw every Dolphins game. Last year was not his best year by far. The first few years, he was money. I mean, money. Yeah. He did very well for this team. The problem with Brent Grimes, and I don't know how deep you guys have dug into it, is he has a wife named Miko with a really huge mouth.
Yeah, she's a big fan of yours, Ron.
Yes, you've seen that on Twitter, haven't you? That causes all kinds of problems in this locker room with this team. I mean, before she was fired from WQAM last year for, you know, showing herself to the police after a game about mid-season, I mean, she spent pretty much a year every weekend with Omar Kelly blasting Ryan Tannehill and just pretty much saying he sucks. And that's when me and her got into it, because I say, to be a fly on the wall when Lauren Tannehill comes in and you're in the room. I'm sure you wouldn't like it if she was on the radio every weekend saying Brent Grimes sucks. And that's what set her off to me and got her so pissed off one night at me. But it's not good for the fan base, first of all. I just think it's ridiculous. I just think it's ridiculous that this guy can't either control his wife or doesn't want to, or the organization can't say, hey, can you put a lid on her? I mean, now she's got a podcast and she blasts off on Twitter pretty much. She's not on the radio anymore, which, you know, whatever. But it just was bad. There was a couple really bad incidents last year. Really, I mean, it divides the locker room, and the fans could see it last year, but the organization and Joe Philbin, who, not that he would know how to control a locker room anyway, they just didn't seem to care. We're not to the point yet where Brent Grimes may or may not be cut. I mean, the problem is he's got us by the cojones, because we've already cut Bryce McCain, who wasn't good anyway. You cut Brent Grimes, and we have to go find 3 starting cornerbacks. Can you name a team in the NFL that right now would need to go find 3 starting cornerbacks? So unfortunately, I think Grimes stays even at $9 million, because we just don't have any choice but to keep him.
I can tell you a team that needed to do that last year was the New York Jets. But Ron, I want to kind of move this back into free agency. So we were talking about the Ndamukong Suh. That was obviously the biggest fish out there last year, and you guys went out and got him in. You're talking about the contract, and listen, Suh was not a bad player. We can't say that. Yeah, he would disappear on the tape at certain points in time, but still a very good defensive tackle. And, you know, maybe he didn't deserve to make the Pro Bowl, but regardless, you guys are paying him not just quarterback money, but legit franchise quarterback money, especially when you factor in the terms of the amount of guaranteed money he got But
yeah,
Ron,
he's getting top player in the NFL, even top quarterback money, definitely.
Yeah. So when you factor in, clearly you're of the mindset right now that you don't want the Dolphins to do more of the same, go out and be big spenders in free agency, even though there are so many holes on your team. So my question is, what would be the ideal Ron Canniff approach to this year's NFL free agency? When you look at the entire landscape of players out there, when you look at the current contract situations with the Dolphins, give us your type of blueprint. What guys on your own team would you like to re-sign? What guys that are out there would you like to bring in for reasonable contracts to fill needs that you guys have? Is there any players that you guys would like to restructure? Give us your blueprint. Go ahead. I know you're not prepared for this. I didn't give you this question beforehand, but I kind of wanted to just see what you know. So go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to see us leave Sue's contract alone and just eat the money this year. I know it's going to be tough. There's some other cuts that we can make. I'd like us, honestly, I'd like us to go into the season kind of knowing that we're going to rebuild. But they're not going to do it. But that's what I'd like to see us do. Go ahead and eat this big year of Sue. Eat it now. Don't mortgage it to 4 years from now when he's 30-something years old and you're eating $27 million. That's one thing I'd like to see. They should just leave Cam Wake alone. I mean, the guy, you saw when he's healthy, he's still one of the best in the league. He's making like $8.5, $9 million a year. That's not a lot of money for a guy as absolutely talented as he is. You should leave him alone. I'd like to see them try and restructure Brent Grimes. I don't think Grimes is going to go for it. Now, the restructuring of Sue, it's written in his contract. If they want to restructure, they just do it. They don't have to have his permission. He's not losing anything. They're just moving the money around from one year to the other. I don't want to go after any big fish. I don't want to see no Mike Wallace's or any of the guys that are out there that are like the big guy, you got to go get this top receiver. You got to go get this. You got to go, Alshon Jeffrey or something like that. Don't do it. Just restructure what you need to restructure, cut who you need to cut to save some money, and draft. And even if they move down in the first round, second rounds, and collect some extra draft picks, I would love to see them do that because we need so many players on this team and just begin to build this team through the draft. And, are you not going to be great this year? No, you're not going to be the worst team in the league. You have 5 Pro Bowlers on this team. I mean, we're not horrible, but we just got so many holes that the Pro Bowlers don't make up for it. You got to start to build the team right. You can't just keep signing all these free agents, and they keep not working. I mean, it's like 3 times in a row now that we've busted on big money free agents. It's time to do it a different way. I don't understand how you can keep doing the same thing over and over again and thinking it's going to work when it hasn't worked yet.
Yeah. So give me specific names of lower tier guys that aren't going to be getting a big time contract that you think would be a good fit with Miami.
Sorry, I am not quite up to date on all the free agents yet, so I do apologize, plus many different ones. There's a couple guards out there that are a little bit older. Like, we're desperate at guard. We've drafted guards 3 years in a row in, like, second, third, fourth round, and we've busted every time, if you could believe it. We didn't even get lucky one time to get a guy that even is somewhat caliber. So I know there's a couple I know Evans is out there, and there's another gentleman out there. I don't remember his name. I was listening to him talk about today. There's a couple guards out there I'd like to see him get. I don't mind us getting Forte as long as we still re-sign Miller. Like, I'm fine with that.
If you re-sign Miller and you get Forte, that's a lot of money just invested in the running back position, and then you're also going to stunt Ajayi's growth.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Ajayi's okay. He got hurt a lot in college. He got hurt last year. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I want to lock up Miller because he's 26. He's younger. He still has.
He's 24. 24.
Or I thought he was 26. I thought he came in when he was 22. He's young.
He's 24. He'll be 25 in, I think, April or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So he's 25 years old. I want to definitely get him locked up. Like, we should. He's like $4.5, $5 million a year. I mean, that's not expensive.
There we go.
Money,
that's the price I'm thinking he's going to be at.
That's what he's going to get. So we should be able to land him for that, unless he decides, I don't want any part of it.
Let me ask you.
Was still around and wouldn't do it, but with Gase, maybe he will.
Would you sign him for $7 million a year, Lamar Miller?
No, and I don't think he's going to get $7 million a year, though.
I don't think so either.
the big thing, the big one we have the question on is the guy who is going to go get the money, but is he worth it? Is Olivier Vernon. He's the one that's going to go get like 10 or 12 million a year.
I know.
And we've seen him play as Dolphins fans. I think he's pretty good. I just think he eats a lot up off of what Wake does. And I don't think he's amazing. I don't think he's worth what he's going to get, but unfortunately he's going to get it. Someone's going to pay the price. The Dolphins have to decide whether it's going to be them or not. I'd rather keep Derek Shelby. He'd be a lot cheaper. And I think he's more worth what we'd pay Shelby than what we're going to pay OV. So I'm okay with letting OV go if he gets a huge deal like $12 million. Now, if he only gets 8, maybe 9, I think that we should have kept him. But they may tag him. They may do the transition tag. See, we did that. We played a game. We did that with Clay last year, and as you know, that didn't work out for us because Buffalo, in my opinion, overpaid for Clay. But guess what? They got him, and we lost him, and now we have no tight end. So we played the game. We lost. We probably should have re-signed Clay. I don't think anybody thought Clay was going to go for that kind of money that Buffalo signed him for because he really isn't as talented as that contract. You do that with OV, it's probably going to be the same story, almost more of a guarantee.
Well, I can tell you this right now. OV is definitely going to get paid high. We see other free agents. I mean, you go back 2 years ago, Everett Griffinson from the Minnesota Vikings. He got a big deal. Limited production. Now he's been quite the player. We just saw a couple of weeks ago, Vinny Curry, guy to me who I loved him coming out of college out of Marshall. But really, you look at his stats, and it's not impressive. He never put together a 10-sack season. Now, OV, on the other hand, he has a 12.5-sack season. He's going to get paid. Pass rushers in this league, Kyle's boy, Muhammad Wilkerson's going to make a pretty penny. And if you could get to the quarterback, you're going to make some money in free agency. And the Dolphins are going to have to pony up some to keep him. I think I think the Dolphins will not have enough cap to get him. He'll have to walk, unfortunately.
They could if they restructure Sue. They restructure Sue, they free up a whole bunch of money. So they could make it happen if they wanted to. But here's my thought on OV, and I'm just going to, just kind of predict this ahead of time. Some team is going to sign him for $10-12 million a year to be their star lead defensive end, their number one pass rusher.
Their premier pass rusher.
And they're going to regret it. They're going to be sorry they did. They're not going to get the production out of him that they thought they would. He's not a number one premier pass rusher guy. He just isn't. He's been sitting over on the other side of Wake all these years, and I just don't see him as premier pass rusher. But someone's going to give him the money for it. There's lots of teams out there that can afford to, even if maybe he's not quite worth it because they've got the cap space to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that I don't think Olivier Vernon is all that good. Been saying that for a long time now on here. Our boy Horace has always been really high on Olivier Vernon. But one thing about him that's interesting, you bring up the fact that he's kind of always benefited from Cameron Wake. But the interesting thing about that is Olivier Vernon, when you look at his entire season, he started to actually heat up in the second half of the season. And I saw a PFF stat that edge rushers, more pressures, not sacks, more pressures than anyone over the last 8 weeks or so of the season, anyone else in the league. And obviously Cameron Wake was sidelined in all those games. So you could argue that maybe that's the best stretch that he had in his career. And obviously Wake wasn't on the field, so he kind of was the guy in that regard. But I agree with you. I don't think he's not very good against the run. And I just don't think he's all that dominant.
Well at all. No, I don't think he sets the edge well at all. I don't necessarily think he's really a 3-down guy. I don't think he's a premier pass rusher. I like him, and I want to keep him. I just think he's going to be too expensive for what he's worth, so we're going to have to let him go. And I really feel that what will happen is the Dolphin fans will be mad at first, and I'll be like, okay, I understand. A lot of Dolphin fans are going to be mad at first, and then they're going to see how he progresses on his other team. Now, if he went to Houston or something and was on the other side of Watt, well, then that's a different story. But you sign him on a team somewhere as a premier pass rusher, I think that the Dolphins fans will see, okay, I see why the Dolphins didn't re-sign him, but I don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do with that. I think it's 50-50 on that. I think they're going to keep Lamar Miller, though. I'm more confident on that one.
No, go ahead, Kyle. I mean, you just look at the recent reports. So supposedly they haven't even made an offer yet to Olivier Vernon. I think that says a lot. And supposedly they definitely want to lock Miller up. And I would be more inclined to do the same. Get Miller. He's going to be a lot cheaper. And Olivier Vernon is just too steep of a price. And look, you let him walk. Obviously, it's going to do good things for your cap. But also, when you look at how much he's going to get paid, it's going to turn into a third-round compensatory pick. So you'd be happy with that.
Well, the problem with the Dolphins, though, is we never get the compensatory picks because it's free agents in, free agents out.
Yeah.
we never balance. We always overgo all the other way. So we never seem to get those. Every year, all these teams get these compensatory picks. Man, we ain't seen one of those in years. I don't even know what those are. So, and I don't think this year is going to be any different, honestly, because we always go and sign all these free agents.
Yeah. Gotta ask you, Ron, what's up with your boy Deion Jordan? Are we gonna ever hear his name?
It's tough. I mean, the guy. It's just said that he doesn't love football like you need to love football to play this game. That he's just kind of going through the motion. He likes the money, likes what it gives him, but he doesn't love the game. He loves, his drugs a little bit more. It would appear. It's pretty much a situation now where there's no point of cutting him. It saves us nothing against the cap to cut him. So, and it would be silly to do so. So you're either going to bring him in, and he's going to have turned a new leaf over the past year and gotten himself straightened out, and he's going to play for us. I don't know how well he'll play. He's going to play for us in some capacity, or he's going to mess up again, fail another drug test, and then we can even go after him for a signing bonus. So they're not going to cut him. They're going to let it play out however it plays out. He's got physical talent. I just don't think he has a lot of heart. I think if he had the heart of like Wake, he'd be excellent. I was very excited when we moved up to draft him, even though there was some good left tackles in that draft, and we desperately needed a left tackle at the time. But I was excited about him because I just thought he was super freakishly talented. And obviously, you heard the comparisons to Jason Taylor and yada yada yada. But there you go. There you have it. It's just another. That's probably the Dolphins' biggest first-round draft bust, maybe in team history. Maybe it's close between him and maybe Teal Green or something like that.
Especially when you guys consider you traded up from pick 12 to pick 3 to get him.
Yeah, but here's the thing on that.
I know. It was
we
money
traded with the Raiders, and the Raiders got robbed. I mean, Jeff Ireland hosed the Raiders on that deal. I mean, we gave up almost nothing for that. That's one thing Jeff Ireland could do. The guy couldn't analyze talent as much except for maybe secondary because he drafted Sean Smith, he drafted Vontae Davis, he drafted Rashad Jones. I mean, I cannot complain about some secondary draft picks. The guy could wheel and deal as far as when it came to trades. He did not like to lose trades. That was one thing he was really good at. That's why I'm really surprised to see, I think he's with New Orleans. He's like head of their college scouting. This guy should be in there dealing with the cap and dealing with trades. That's his skill, not college scouting. Give me a break. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's the Saints, man. We all know they're going in a lot of places right now, so.
Yeah. I guess not.
I mean, if you want to talk about, how you were talking about how you don't want to restructure the Sue deal because it's going to cause more problems down the road. That's what the Saints have done over the years, and that's why they were in, salary cap the past couple of years, and that's why they have Drew Brees, who's got a $30 million cap hit. They can't basically do anything with him this year. Anyway.
They kept moving it around till, just like we might do with Sue. I thought we had actually already done it, but then I heard that we have not actually officially restructured Sue's deal yet. I don't know. I kind of think they're going to because they're the Dolphins.
Yeah, and some Jets fans want to do that with Davis.
I mean, they're the Dolphins. It's Ross. It's Tannenbaum. I mean, all signs point to they're going to restructure this deal and go after Alshon Jeffrey or something like that. I don't know.
I don't even think Jeffrey shakes free, to be honest. I cannot see him not getting the franchise tag. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit of Adam Gase. He was your background picture in your profile on Twitter, but you since have changed it to Tannehill and Juice Landry, who I know is one of your favorites.
Yes.
But at the beginning of the coaching search, where did you have Gase ranked in terms of guys that you would actually want to be your head coach? Was he at the top? Was he near the top? Where exactly did you have him?
I heard a lot of good things about him, but I was really wanting them to get somebody with experience. I mean, they've gone from Cam Cameron, Tony Sperano, Bill Philbin. I mean, Dave Wannstedt was the last coach we drafted that had head coaching experience. That was not drafted, but hired. That was a long time ago. And it's been years. You know what I mean? We haven't had very many coaches from Wannstedt back. It was just a few. There was pretty much Shula, and there was Wannstedt, and there was Jimmy Johnson, there was Wannstedt, and then we started doing all these coaches, and like every single one of them was a coordinator or an offensive line coach or something like that. So I was really hoping they were going to go in and get somebody with experience, or maybe, I know this is crazy, maybe even keep Dan Campbell, maybe keep Dan Campbell. I was kind of hoping one of those things would happen. So when they went the coordinator route again, I was like, are you kidding me? Again? We're going to do this again? But just everyone's so high on him. And everyone wasn't so high on Philbin, and that's just a fact. I mean, he was one of the ones that was out there, that was considered, to be one of the more top candidates. But that's only because there wasn't a lot of other great candidates out there at the time. People are so high on Gase that I don't know. We're going to see what happens. Give it a shot. But I was really hoping they'd go with someone that had experience. I was hoping that they would go Shanahan.
You hear a little bit of skepticism in your voice, which is, I think, indicative of what you were saying earlier, how you're not going to buy everything that the Dolphins are selling you, which I think is a good thing because you've been duped in the past.
I've been duped so many times and allowed myself to be duped. I can no longer do that. So I'm not negative on him. I'm not saying, he's going to stink.
Yeah, I hear you.
I just was surprised they went the coordinator route one more time. And again, everybody speaks high of you, of course, when you're in a coaching search or what have you, and you're being considered for coaching jobs. And you don't hear everybody coming out, that guy stinks, don't hire him. You hear about it afterwards. That's just always the way it works. So we'll see how the next few years play out. To sit there and Stephen Ross to sit there and say he's the next Belichick. Yeah, we've heard that before. And Chad Henne was the next Marino. Ross actually said that. So, I mean, come on. You've lost credibility with me and your ability to analyze coaches and quarterbacks there, Ross. Let's just slow your roll on the whole Belichick comparison.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say something. I mean, Gase, he was available last year too, and yeah, he was getting some interviews, but he wasn't a hot candidate. But then you see the drop off. Peyton Manning had that amazing 55 touchdown season. Obviously he was tapering off though when Gase was there. He had a down year last year, but he wasn't getting a lot of heat like he was this year. As far as this year, he was the top candidate, and the Dolphins went out and got him. But I'm on the fence with you, Ron. I don't know if he's quite what he's cracked up to be, but I'm in a wait and see mode as well.
Yeah, it was all based off. I think it was all based off. People saw the 55 touchdown season, and he was part of Manning, and then we see the drop off. I think more what happened to it is then he went with a second quarterback, a tough one, let's admit. Jay Cutler, who's the modern day version of Jeff George, in my opinion. And he actually did some decent things with him. Yeah, he did some decent things with him. And I think that's really what launched him up. Like, okay. All right, Manning, that's one thing. He's one of the greatest ever. But, Jay, you can do stuff with Jay Cutler? Yeah, come sign right here. We want you to be our coach because we got this guy Tannehill that he ain't so hot half the time. And then other times he looks like the best quarterback in the NFL. Can you figure out which one it is for us? Because we're just not sure. I think that's really what it was. I think it was the Cutler thing more than anything.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue. So, when we look at Ryan Tannehill last year, one thing that everyone would always say is the kid is getting better. Year after year after year, he's improving. When you look, he was extremely raw coming out of college. It really had one starting season, and he was a wide receiver before that in college.
Yes.
An athletic receiver at that. But, to see him go 8th overall, he kind of really shot up the draft boards late in the process. He's starting as a rookie right out of the gate. And he constantly showed progression. And, I remember messaging you or tweeting at you early in the preseason and saying, hey, I just finished watching all of Tannehill's games from last year, and I walked away, being pretty impressed and came away thinking, he's better than what I thought he was. Mm-hmm. And then watching all of his games this previous season, the season that just ended, it kind of looked like he regressed a little bit. He didn't make that progression, that jump that he continued to make his first 3 years. So I guess what I'm asking is, obviously we know the Dolphins had a whole stretch of bad coaching last year, just horrible coaching. 70+% passing in certain games doesn't help when you fire your head coach 4 games into the season. It's never going to help. But I guess what I'm asking is, Adam Gase is supposed to be a quarterback guru. Like, how do you see Gase's coaching skill set and what he does? How do you see him being able to transition and help Mr. Tannehill out? Do you think it's going to work? Where do you see that marriage between the two of them? Like, is there anything that Gase does in his offense that really translate well to fitting in with Tannehill's skill set?
Well, there's a few things I could say about it. Tannehill, and I kind of learned over 4 years now, Tannehill does certain things very well, and he does other things very poorly. And Philbin, and especially Laser, and I can say I'm on record, I was never sold on the Laser hiring. I never liked Laser. I was not a Laser fan, our former OC. They were always trying to get him to do things he just wasn't good at, and not really exploring the things he was good at, like bootlegging, throwing the ball on the run. I'm telling you, the guy is money throwing the ball on the run. He is money fitting the ball into a tight spot on like a 20, 25-yard pass. But if you want him to throw fades over the top of somebody, even if it's 30 yards, no, it's not going to work. I don't care who you have. I don't care who the receiver is. It's just not going to work. It is not Tannehill's game.
Hey, Ron, I must say, Stoneburner caught a fade touchdown against us Week 4 in London.
Yeah, it was one pass. Congratulations for Tannehill. I saw him try and do it 6 times in a row to Parker. Wasn't that against the Jets, too? If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it like there was a penalty? Like he tried 3 or 4 times, there was a penalty, then he tried 2 more times to throw it over the top in the corner end zone to Parker and missed every single time from like 10 yards.
I think it was that Week 4 matchup.
He doesn't have that kind of touch. It's not his game. So what Gase supposedly does is he doesn't bring in a system, which one thing I will say I love to hear is he's not a system guy. He's I got these players, they do this thing's good, here's what we're going to do to make it work. I think that's where some of the Belichick, comparisons come in maybe, because I think Belichick was really more of a guy who kind of adapts to what he has. And that's what I'm interested to see what will happen. Will he develop a system that truly does incorporate what Tannehill does well? Because he does do some things very well. The pocket presence thing, I don't know. I don't know if you ever fix that. I know the guy's jittery from being behind one of the worst lines in the history of the NFL, it feels like, for 4 years. But some of that, those sacks and some of those issues are kind of on Tannehill. And, the deep ball issues, those have always been there. They were there in college. They're there now. I just think that is what it is. He's not a deep ball guy. There are good quarterbacks right now in the league that are not or never or aren't anymore, Tom Brady, deep ball throwers. They're just not. Peyton Manning. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I know a guy who's a big Chicago fan, actually, on the other podcast that I'm on, Next Fan Up. The Chicago fan, he says when he saw Cutler play this year, he could kind of see a little bit of the things that Manning would do. Cutler was doing. He was kind of like, whoa, that looked like Manning. So we're going to see if Gase can do it, say, a third time or a second time with a kind of a project quarterback like Tannehill.
Going to be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm excited to see. That's one thing I have to say. I'm excited to see what he does based off what I've heard so far. Now, I'm not thinking it's bringing us to the next level. We're going to the playoffs because of it, but I'm excited to see what kind of strides Tannehill can make, because this is kind of it for Tannehill. If he doesn't make strides under Gase, I think it's just time to move on. I think it's just time to move on and cut your losses and find another quarterback.
Wow. So Ron, that actually, I guess, is a good segue to another question then. 8th pick in the draft. Some people are saying there's at least two guys that you would be comfortable drafting in the first round. Some would say 3, Paxton Lynch being the 3rd. You guys currently hold the 8th pick in the draft. I know you said that you're interested in trading down and acquiring more picks because you guys got a lot of holes in your roster. I want to hear your early wish list for the 8th pick. Be realistic. We know Joey Bosa's not falling to the 8th pick. We know Jalen Ramsey's probably not falling to the 8th pick. So give me being realistic, give me player number 1 that could possibly fall to 8 that you would love to be in a Miami Dolphins uniform.
I would love Ragland from Bama. That'd be my number 1 pick. We have needed a linebacker. Linebacker is the worst unit on our team. I mean, we haven't really talked about it much in the show. It's the worst unit on our team. And it's probably the worst linebacking unit, or maybe the second worst linebacking unit in the NFL. It's really bad. From the starters down to the depth. So they keep running away. They keep coming out of the draft without one, and they keep coming out of free agency without one. And struck out twice in free agency, and then in the draft it just never fell their way, or they pass on a guy that they probably shouldn't have and drafted someone else, what have you. So he would be my top pick, honestly.
Hey, Ron, you just brought up linebacker and how you guys don't have good linebacker play. Give me your thoughts. I know you watched the game. The second Jets game in MetLife Stadium, the Chris Ivory touchdown run where he broke, 7 tackles on the play. What's your reaction on the play?
I don't know. I guess I almost say every bad team, you see stuff like that happen. You know what I mean? Watch every game from every team that didn't do well, and you see a play like that. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. It was ugly. We saw Houston do it on us with Landry. You know what I mean, too? And I'm not even saying they were bad. I mean, they went to the playoffs, but it's just one of those things. But I will say, poor tackling has been an issue with the Dolphins ever since Philbin arrived. Ever since Philbin's been here, we have been a poor tackling team. I don't know if that's from the way they drafted. And they say, you can draft a guy that's a here or there that's not the prototypical player or what you need at a certain position. But if you draft a bunch of guys that way, you end up with a team that has a bunch of guys who either can't tackle, or a bunch of slow guys, or a bunch of guys are too big, or a bunch of guys are, what have you, too short. And I think that might be kind of what the Dolphins have right now. They have a bunch of guys that aren't great tacklers. You can have a few, but if you have a bunch, you just have a poor tackling team. And that's some of it, and some of it is just we're just not a very good team in general. We weren't a very motivated team under Philbin, that's for sure. And at Dan Campbell at first, but then as it went, we kind of lost that. I don't know, man. This team has some problems right now. Locker room problems, roster problems, organizational problems. From top to bottom, there's definitely issues with the Dolphins right now.
For sure. Last question. Going back to the draft, if you can't get Ragland, who's your second choice? Being realistic, though, 8th pick.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he's hurt, but I like Jalen Smith. I'm going another linebacker from Notre Dame, and I know he's hurt, and it probably means that, that we won't necessarily have him right away. But again, my strategy. I'm not necessarily interested. What can you do now to get us in the playoffs? I don't want to see us do that. Let's take Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith is actually in a lot of people's boards ranked, ahead of Ragland a little bit. I mean, it's kind of back and forth. Now, I know this is a little odd, and the Dolphins fans are going to kill me. But we're going to find out how much Gase really loves, and Tannehill really loves. Not said Tannehill, but Tannenbaum loves Tannehill. What if they drafted Carson Wentz if he dropped our way? Quarterback.
I was wondering, when you started saying cut your losses, maybe cut Tannehill, I was thinking, would Ron be okay with drafting another quarterback with the 8th overall pick? Because Tannehill was also the 8th overall pick a couple years back.
Mm-hmm. It won't upset me because I'll know, okay, I see what they're doing now. They are really, truly. And you know what? We'll know what they're really thinking through free agency. Are they going to dump all the salary they can to go sign every free agent they can? Well, then I can guarantee if that happens, they're not going to go spend the first pick on Carson Wentz. But if they're real moderate, real kind of conservative, maybe they don't even touch the Seuss contract, they leave it alone. Maybe they are thinking a little bit more of the future, and so that move wouldn't then surprise me. But it won't bother me if they do it, and I know a lot of Dolphins fans, and I've said it on Twitter recently, and I get hammered for it on Twitter for saying it, but it's not going to bother me. And Tannehill should realize they just drafted a quarterback in the first round. I got to get going or I'll be out of here. I mean, he's had no pressure, nobody to push him yet. year 5 now, and as of right now, is nobody pushing him for that job. Not even a person they could think about bringing in and say, this guy will take your job if you don't play better. That is a problem. They need somebody there to like push him to say, you don't play better, we're putting this guy in and he's going to start. And that hasn't happened yet. They put in a rookie. They draft a rookie, 8th overall pick. He's looking behind his head there, wondering, oh hey, I better do well. I better do better, or this guy's going to take my job and I'm going to be somewhere else.
Yep, I hear you on that one. So Ron, why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast, Unsquish the Fish? You got a new episode, you said, coming out. Is it this Friday? Did I hear you correctly?
Thursday. I'll be recording it tomorrow. I'll be recording it with Louis Sung from FinManiacs.com. He's on the show a lot. And it'll be recorded tomorrow. It'll be out Thursday, early Thursday. When you wake up, it'll be there. And going to just start it again for the 2016 season. Obviously, we're talking about a lot of free agency stuff and some of the coaching moves because I haven't done an episode since we've done some of them. And from there on, we'll move through free agency, move through the draft, just like you guys. It'll be all the same subjects.
Yeah, you know it.
Ron, I got to ask you real quick. I know Kyle keeps firing away on questions, but if you had to rank the quarterbacks in the AFC, so what would you rank your boy Tannehill? In what order would that ranking go?
I know all the crap I just talked about him. That's tough. That's tough. It's like there's Brady, obviously. He's number 1. I mean, that's not a question.
Of course.
But then there's 3 guys that you're like, Tyrod Taylor, Ryan, I guess Fitzpatrick has just shown a little bit more consistency than Taylor or Tannehill. I guess you got to put him too. I don't love him. I don't know. I just feel like Tannehill's a little better than Tyrod. Taylor's been sitting behind Flacco all these years, and he's really just gotten the 1 year to play. Plus, I think he was hurt part of last year as well. So we'll see. I'm not saying that Taylor can't pass him up, can't pass Tannehill up depending on what they do this year. Tannehill, when it's all said and done, could be the 4th guy. It pains me, too, to think I thought the Dolphins were going to be so great, and not only did they suck, the Jets were good, the Bills were good, the Patriots are good again. I'm like, oh, man, sickening year, just sickening.
Yeah. Rough year for a Dolphins fan.
Yes, another one.
Yeah, Ron, we know you got to head out soon, so your podcast, we can expect a new episode this Thursday.
Mm-hmm. iTunes, Stitcher, the whole 9 there.
iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have anything new, any new segments, any new guests that we can expect? Anything new about the show? You've obviously had a lot of time off to think about it. Anything new that listeners can expect?
A new perspective. When they first found me last year, I was Mr. Dolphins are the best in the world. Now I'm Mr. Cautiously Optimistic, maybe. So really, it's just going to be the same show, more of a new me a little bit, and they probably won't be used to that. Some of the people who just want to think the Dolphins are the greatest every year and we're 2 pieces away probably aren't going to listen to me anymore. I'm sorry about that, but I don't want to be set up anymore by the Dolphins or by myself, so going to let it play out.
I'll still listen to you regardless, but I think I like the new approach. And lastly, you brought up your Next Fan Up podcast. Can you kind of tell us how that works? And you are, from what you told me, the super fan for the Next Fan Up podcast for the Miami Dolphins. How exactly does that work?
Correct. So what that podcast is, it's something that Pod Vader, anybody who's listened to ESPN podcast over the years, over the past decade, probably knows Jay Soderbergh, Pod Vader. He's no longer with ESPN, as many people are no longer with ESPN. And he works for Blog Talk Radio now, and he used to do some kind of version of the Super Fan podcast. I don't recall, hearing it before. But he wanted to do it again now that he's with Blog Talk Radio. So he's really the producer of it, and you've got one super fan for every team. Different ones are in and out of the podcast. We do write-ups, and they get put up on our Facebook page. And we're in this little Slack group where we're kind of messaging each other a lot about what we're going to talk about and kind of going back and forth at each other. And I'll be honest with you guys, some of these fans hate each other. They hate each other, and I'm not going to get into who is who, but it gets ugly sometimes, and sometimes that spills out onto the podcast, even though we try and hold our own. But I know they're currently looking for fans of some teams. I know, like Bills, obviously, and like we talked about, Gary, there, and Denver doesn't currently have a fan. Arizona doesn't currently have a fan. Maybe a couple other, Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. Currently, there are vacancies for those people that have decided to move on to other projects after the season. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's 32 guys, all representing their team. And some guys are so optimistic that they think their team is going to be the best, kind of like me last year and the Eagles fan last year. And we both got crushed. If any two fan bases got crushed and put down to size, it was us. And some guys are very realistic about their teams, and some guys are braggadocious about their teams, the Patriots fan, because they can be. So
knew that was coming.
Yeah, so it's a fun mix of guys, and the mix of guys kind of changes out. Like people kind of come in and out of it, and people say, okay, I'm going to do something else, so we find a new fan, and it kind of changes the dynamic of the group some, but it's a lot of fun, and the podcast is definitely growing, and I'm very lucky to be part of it, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Ron, I don't know if you heard real quick, one of your stopgap players retired. Gerard Mayo just announced that he's not going to play no longer in the NFL.
Well, there goes that grandiose plan. Oh, well, on to plan B, I guess. Another linebacker we won't have on our team.
There you go. Well, hey, listen, Calvin Shepard and Ragland, maybe that might be a nice duo.
Yeah, we definitely need a linebacker. We need help a lot of spots, but linebackers the number one in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, hey, listen, maybe I'll be on that. I might represent the Buffalo Bills. I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Send that email over to Jay for sure, because I was looking through the list. I was like, whoa, no Bills fan. What happened? I thought we had one. So definitely send that over, man. It'd be awesome.
All right, good.
All right, so that's Ron Canniff. You can follow him on Twitter at unsquishthefish. Like his Facebook page. Anywhere else where people should be following you on social media? You got an Instagram page, anything like that?
I do have an Instagram page. I don't really get into it. I don't know. That's just not my thing. I'm on Twitter all the time, and I'll do posts for my show here and there on Facebook, but Twitter is where you find me. Pretty much you tweet me, it's like texting me, because I've always got my phone with me, and I'm always on Twitter.
Yeah. I must admit, that was really something to see when you and Miko Grimes were going at it. Mom, what was the name that she called you?
Oh, man, she called me a bunch of stuff. I can't remember. Honestly, at this point, I truly don't remember, but let's just say that it was all very dirty. And,
yeah. I know. One fan suggested that, that she should come on your show, and she's like, I'm not going to go on that nobody show, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to give him no shine. I remember that. I was just like, okay, whatever. Now I won't go on your stupid little podcast either. My podcast probably has more listeners. No, that's actually not likely true, but
But I will say it must be better though. It definitely has to be better. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, for sure. I've never. You know what? I'll be honest with you, and you guys may know, I was so caught up last year in the Miko thing and Kelly. Stop following Omar Kelly. I don't listen to him anymore. I don't follow him, and man, I'm just less. I'm less stressed out because of it. Let me tell you.
Did you unfollow him, Ron, or did he block you? Be honest.
No. He never blocked me because I never got on a reel back in disrespect. He'll block you if you're disrespectful. He might have muted me, but I would never know if he ever muted me. But he never blocked me, honestly. I'm one of the few. Like almost my Twitter feed is like a graveyard of blocked Omar followers, let me tell you. Just about everybody who blocked by Omar, but I was never blocked by him. I unfollowed him several months ago. I just couldn't listen to him anymore. And I'd had enough, and I don't know what I don't know what his opinion is of the team. I'm sure it's not good because it usually never is. But I don't know anymore. I follow Armando. I like to follow some of the local guys, Finn Maniacs, Finn Siders, things like that. And who else do I follow? Beasley. I like to follow Beasley. So and I do follow Walker from ESPN, although many Dolphins fans do not like James Walker from ESPN. They see him as like Omar Light, but I follow him as well because he kicks out like 2 stories a day, so I enjoy that.
Yeah. I don't see Omar Light in him. I really honestly don't. But
yeah, I don't either, but there are Dolphins fans who would disagree with me.
Yeah. All right, Ron. Well, thanks a bunch for coming on, and we hope to do it again soon.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Anytime. So that's Ron Canniff. Make sure you go and give him a follow and give his podcast a listen. All right, Gary. So that was good stuff.
Yeah.
Always refreshing to get a Dolphins perspective.
It's good. You know, Kyle, we like you said, we don't give the Dolphins enough love. And it, like you said, probably mostly warranted because what have you done for me lately? They haven't been making much headlines besides hiring Adam Gase. Not a very productive season. A lot of free agency moves last year. A lot of hype coming their last season. You know, we had them ranked, I believe, as our second best team in the AFC East, solely based on their quarterback situation. And their quarterback really disappointed. And now look at one of their podcasters, one of the guys that reports to this team. He's saying if he has another dismal year, cut your losses. Interesting stuff. I mean, really.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting to hear that. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to come on here and say, "Hey, listen, Tannehill with Gase, he's gonna be great now." I wasn't expecting Ron to come on and do all that, but I was not at all expecting him to come on and maybe, "Hey, listen, maybe cut your losses with Tannehill. Go back and listen. He's got 29 episodes in the books. Go back and listen to the episodes in the preseason, Ron hyping up Tannehill. You would really think that Tannehill was, you know, on pace for an all-pro type season, you know? He's that optimistic about him, you know. That was his, you know, his, I don't know if it was his Twitter I know it was his Facebook avatar at the time. So really optimistic about Tannehill. And let's be honest, I was drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid too, as I said earlier in the show. Anyway, Gary, let's move on. Deshawn has been on the line for a long time, and we thank him for his patience. Deshawn's got some trivia for us this evening. So, Deshawn, Kyle, and Gary here. How you doing, man?
Hello? I'm doing good. Hello?
Hey, Deshawn. So, New Rochelle. Where do you live again? You're right in the New Rochelle area. Did you kind of see the other surrounding towns? Did you kind of figure out where you're living?
I said Mount Vernon. It's like almost close to Yonkers, around that. Close, right? Not that far from Yonkers.
Yeah, I can kind of sense a little bit of a New York accent on you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Deshawn, so your trivia.
Yeah.
You want to just fire off the questions, or do we get any type of rules for this game? Are me and Gary competing against one another? Like, what's the deal?
All right. I don't want you guys to compete together. We're going to work as a team. It's 8 questions, two questions for each team in the division. Some of them are easy, some of them are hard. If you do not get the whole question correct, that's just wrong, and then you just move on to the next question. And we're just trying to see how well do you know the AFC East.
All right. So do we have to come to a conclusion, and do we have to guess
like the last final answer. You can't use no internet, no Google, nothing, none of that. No internet, no Google. I want nobody to cheat, and you're just gonna work together and come up with the final answer you guys both agree on.
Oh, this might be hard.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Almost like Family Feud.
Yeah, true. He's right. Yeah.
That's a good answer. Good answer, and everyone starts clapping.
Just tell me when you guys are ready, because I'm ready.
We're ready.
We're ready. Go ahead, shoot. Fire away.
Okay, all right. The teams eliminated by the Jets in the playoffs from 2002 to the last time the Jets were in the playoffs. Name the teams the Jets eliminated in the playoffs from 2002 on.
Oof, Kyle.
So the teams that the Jets eliminated in the playoffs from 2002 on.
Yes.
So we got to name all of them. All right.
Yep,
well,
all of them.
You can help me out on this one. So.
Of course.
All right. So they eliminated the Bengals in 2009. They eliminated the Chargers in 2009. They eliminated the Colts in 2010. They eliminated the Patriots in 2010. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. 2008 they did not make the playoffs. 2007. 2008 they had a good season but didn't make the playoffs. 2007 they weren't in the playoffs. Let's see. 2006 I believe is when they played the. Well, I know they beat the Chargers was that 2004 or 5? I know they beat the Chargers another time in there in Qualcomm Stadium. Drew Brees was the quarterback at the time.
Uh-huh.
They lost a close one to the Steelers that same season. They had another playoff appearance, I think it was 2006, where they played Mangini's first year, I believe, where they played the Patriots in Foxborough, ended up losing in the wild card round of the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. What year did they?
Answers and the year, so that's it. That's all I can say.
Okay. So I have to even if I name the same team, I gotta still say that team again because I gotta say what year it was as well.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, 2002, they in that year's playoffs, the playoffs, and I want to say that they thrashed. Did they thrash Peyton Manning that year? And yeah, help me out. They 1 year they beat Peyton Manning 41-0, and this was if they won the division, they had a home playoff game. I think that was the last time they did.
The year, I don't know what the year is though, Kyle. I can't remember that.
I'm gonna guess it was 2002.
All right, that was correct.
Okay, so I'm missing one playoff game.
Mhm.
All
You
right.
have 2002, 2009, and 2010 correct. You're missing one year.
Let's see. Did they win a playoff game with Herman Edwards? Was that Herman Edwards with Pennington? Come on, Gary, you help me out here.
No internet, remember.
We're not using the internet, I promise you.
Kyle, because I'll tell you this right now. I remember they definitely made it with Herman Edwards. I can't remember.
Okay, well, let's think.
2005 season.
Let's run through all the teams that are possibilities here. All right, so they didn't play the Dolphins in the playoffs. They didn't play the Bills in the playoffs, right? I know they didn't beat the Patriots another year, so we can rule out the other teams in the AFC East. They didn't beat the Steelers in the playoffs. They didn't beat the Ravens. They have a terrible record against the Ravens. It wasn't the Browns, that's for damn sure, and it wasn't the Bengals either. The Bengals were terrible at that point in time, so take out the North. AFC West. The Broncos, I cannot think of a playoff game against the Broncos. Certainly wasn't the Raiders. I've already mentioned the Chargers, them beating them twice. The Chiefs, no, it wasn't the Chiefs.
Wait. All right. Yeah, you had the Chargers, but what year? You never said the year for the Chargers.
Oh, okay. So I'm just waiting on that then. All right. Give me a second to think about that. All right. It's not 2008. It's not 2007.
Either 2004 or 2005 they played the Chargers. Because Phil Rivers was drafted in 2004. I think he made it to the playoffs his second year.
Okay.
But no. He might have made it his first year. But if they didn't play him, they played Drew Brees. That's the thing. It was a big controversy. Had it been 2004, because they were both on the same team.
I agree with you. Let's go with 2004.
All right, that's correct. You got the first question correct. Okay.
All right, how about that teamwork right there?
There we go.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of easy. We're moving to number 2. Okay.
That was kind of easy. What are you talking about? That was a tough one.
Nah.
Drew Brees, no Drew Brees. Philip Rivers, we got to match the year.
I mean, one is a Jets fan, one is not. So, yeah, you got to use teamwork. You have to use teamwork. We're going to move on to number 2. All right, the Super Bowl, I believe was Super Bowl 26, Bills versus Redskins. How many times did the Bills fumble?
Oof. God. It was either 3 or 4.
Are we talking about which Super Bowl? Bills versus who?
The Redskins.
Redskins.
Oh. Gary, it's going to have to be you, man.
I know, and it was an ugly game by the Bills. They still could have won that.
You know, after watching the Four Falls of Buffalo, I know there was some people, I think Tasker, amongst others, said that Redskins team was the best team that he ever played against.
Really? Even better than those Dallas teams?
Yeah, he said that Redskins team.
I didn't hear him say that. Ah, man. You know what? I'm trying to relive the game in my head.
We
four.
feel
4.
Oh no, that's wrong.
How many was it again?
It was 6.
Yeah.
damn.
It was.
Well, we knew it was going to be a high number, but damn, 6 fumbles.
Yeah, and then the next one was 8, and that was the Cowboys. They fumbled a lot against, I believe.
Yeah.
The other way around. But so we did a Jets trivia question and Bills. Now we're moving to a Dolphins trivia. Okay, who was the Dolphins coach from 1970 through 1995?
Easy, Don Shula.
All right, that's correct. All right, number 4. All right, name all the Jets starting QBs since 2000.
Oh, this is going to be
Oh.
tough.
Now let me ask you a question. Does that mean starting from even if they start at one game?
Yes, started one game to starting any started QBs.
How many? All right, Deshawn, give us this. How many are there? Just so we could count.
Hold on, there was hold on.
You got to write
Yeah,
this. You got to know this.
Yeah, I have 8.
8
Okay.
of them.
All right.
Ray
I got a pen and
Lucas.
paper.
Ray Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Favre.
Yes.
Vinny Testaverde.
Mm-hmm.
Tad Pennington.
Yes. Keep going.
Okay. What was the last year, Kyle, he said? Till now?
Yeah, he said till present.
Okay.
Yeah.
Geno Smith.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Mark Sanchez.
Yes.
Greg McElroy.
Greg McElroy never started.
Yeah, he did. He started against the Chargers, Week 15.
All right. Yes. Yes, I have that.
And he got sacked like 10 plus times in that game, and he got concussed, and he never saw the field after that.
What about Sims started too, Kyle?
Who?
Matt Sims started.
Nah, Sims didn't start. He came in relief duty in a couple games.
Who was that? All right. What was that? All right, we're not using that as a guess, but who was? Remember that ugly Jets game we went to? It was like Brian Braum was the starter, and who else? It was a game that didn't mean nothing, and I don't even know why we got tickets for it. It was at MetLife, or Giant Stadium, rather.
What year is it?
Real quick, just say the names
Oh,
you already said.
Okay. Right now I know I'm missing some that we wrote down, but I got Favre, Pennington, Geno, Fitz, McElroy, Sanchez.
All right, hold on. Slow it down.
Ray Lucas.
Favre. All right, that's correct. You have 1. Yes.
Okay, Favre, 1. Pennington, 2.
2.
Geno, 3.
Yes.
Fitz, 4. McElroy, 5. Sanchez, 6. Lucas, 7.
Yes.
Gary, I feel like we said one other that I didn't write down.
Testaverde.
All right, Testaverde.
8.
Now that's 8. That's 8, but is it 9 because you forgot about McElroy?
Yeah, I forgot about McElroy.
All right. Well, Gary, it's not. We went to a Week 17 game, 2010 season. Joe McKnight actually ran for like 150 yards in that game, believe it or not. But Sanchez actually started the game, but Mark Brunell. So it's not Mark Brunell.
Did Mark Brunell ever start any games?
Not that I can think of, no. It's Kellen Clemens. Kellen Clemens had to start somewhere. Yeah, Kellen Clemens.
Yes, it is Kellen Clemens from 2007 to 2009 is when he started. So you got that question correct. So far, you have 2 questions correct out of 3 that we went over so far.
Both of them are Jets questions.
No, we got the Don Shula for Dolphins. We got 3.
So we got 3 out of 4 so far.
Yeah, 3 out of 4. My fault. Okay, number 5. This is a Patriots question. What year was the Patriots founded?
Gary, were they founded the same year as the Jets and the Bills? Because the Jets and the Bills was the same exact year. The new AFL teams. I think the Patriots are in the same, but I'm not positive.
You know what, Kyle?
I know the Dolphins are in the Bills.
I was just reading a documentary on the New England Patriots. Well, I mean, the AFL was in the 1960s. So why don't we go with that? Why don't we just go with that?
So the Jets' 50th anniversary
was... they came in the same year, of course.
Okay, so it's got to be 59 then, because 2009 was the 50th anniversary season for the Jets-Bills. So 50 years is... Or is it that 60 season? Do they count?
Well, they were I believe every team was founded in 59 in the AFL, but they didn't start playing until like their seasons are from 1960 to 69.
Okay, so Deshawn, you know what we're saying. It's either 59/60.
All right, I'm gonna have to do. It's 1960. So yeah, I'll give you guys that point since it's around the time. All right, because it's fair enough. We have another next question, number 6 out of 8. Name the last time the Bills were in the playoffs, the year, and their opponent they faced.
That's easy. Gary, I'll let you do that one. You have the honors.
It was 1999, and it was the Tennessee Titans.
The Music City Miracle.
Correct. Okay, number 7. Since Tom Brady's been in the NFL, who did he lose to twice in the Super Bowl in the year?
Eli Manning, 2007-2011 seasons.
Okay, yes. That was easy. Okay. The last and final question.
He said, who do you lose to? He lost to the Giants. Didn't say quarterback.
Oh,
he said who, yeah. It's the Giants as a team. This is the last question. This is probably easy. Some people.
You're giving Eli a lot more credit than he deserves on that one.
I know. But you know how people always make it about the quarterbacks when it's always more than that. But
yeah, true. I'm going to say this last question. Which year were the Dolphins undefeated?
1972.
Yeah, that's right. That's all the questions. You guys got one wrong, and that was how many times did the Bills fumble in the Super Bowl versus the Redskins? Other than that, you got every question correct.
That was a tough one. Deshawn, we enjoyed that, man. That was a good segment right there.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to find some good questions that I didn't know you guys would know. But it seems like you guys...
That was good. That was good stuff, Deshawn. We appreciate your input every week.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe next time we can have something where we can compete with one another, because Gary and I, we like to compete with one another. Whether it's playing video games or trampoline wrestling out in the backyard, we've always been pretty competitive with one another.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I know you may not know about the Jets. Gary may not, or you may not know too much.
But that's all part of it, though. You ask Bill's
questions,
you ask him Jets questions. It's all fair game.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, you got anything else on your mind? Any questions, Jets related, AFC East related?
No, I have no questions at all. I was not prepared for any questions, nothing. I don't know what's happening in the NFL really like that, or AFC East. So
not too much. It's really quiet, to be honest.
Yeah, it's quiet. It usually happens after the draft when lots of noise starts. But all I can do is wait and see who the Jets release or sign, franchise tag.
We got the Combine coming up in a couple of weeks, free agency after that, so the news is really going to kick up soon. But right now it's just kind of delving into the draft prospects, figuring out, people stacking up their boards, where do they rank players. That's really the big news right now, and anything, I guess, Peyton Manning related, all these allegations coming out about him and what he did back in his time with Tennessee. But when those types of stories are the main focus, that it's kind of a slow period.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. All right, Deshawn, thanks a bunch for calling.
Welcome. Anytime.
All right. Well, that's Deshawn. So, Gary, we got an email. From another Twitter follower, Jets fan, Tyler. He said that he has a question about Wilkerson, and if he ends up somehow going away from the Jets, if it's via trade or, I guess that's the only way that he walks this year. I don't think
he's a franchise.
Yeah, because so the only way that he's not going to be in a Jets uniform is if they trade him. But he says, in the event that that does happen, obviously someone that's going to get a cheaper contract, I don't know how much cheaper, definitely significantly cheaper, but I don't think this guy's going to be cheap. He said, do you think that the Jets would give Mario Williams a shot? And he didn't say this, but I know this has been floated around out there because Mike McCagnon was in the building when the Houston Texans selected Mario Williams number 1 overall. Charlie Casserly is most notably the guy that signed off on that decision. Everyone thought they were going to go with Reggie Bush. He ends up taking Mario Williams. Charlie Casserly, just gave glowing praise for the Mike McCagnon hire, and he was instrumental in that McCagnon hire. So there's that kind of connection right there. So any shot that the Jets would give Mario Williams a contract, I don't see it. I really don't. He's on the back end of his career. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, first, Mario's got to get released and let go. He's still in the contract with the Bills. So right now I think it's in limbo of whether he's going to stay or not. I know he's not going to stay at what he's getting paid right now. But I'm surprised he hasn't been cut already, to be quite honest with you. I don't see it. Like I said, he's latter part of his career. But you know what? The Jets like signing old players. So it wouldn't shock me. They give him a 50-year deal, and that seems like the Jets' trend right now for these 30 plus. Like
the Jets, if the Jets really, if you're going to spend money, and Mario Williams isn't going to come cheap. Let's just be honest.
No, I just said $15 million is probably the minimal he'll take.
Yeah, and I mean, that is a significant portion of what you could give Snacks, or it would go a long way in Wilkerson negotiations when you talk about, wanting a couple extra million a year. Even bringing back a Leger Douzable, who's been a nice kind of role player on the defensive line. I would much rather
great compliment player.
I would much rather want him back at a much cheaper rate than a Mario Williams.
Yeah. I don't know if Leger could get the sacks or pressure that Mario could get, but
yeah, I would agree with that.
If I was a Jets fan, I would not be thrilled about that. One, Mario has now become this prima donna type of player where he's complaining every week, and the New York Jets media. Do you really want that? I can just see if he's not getting his way, if he's not getting a 14-plus sack season or something he's accustomed to having, you don't want that type of headache. Even us Bills fans, we're kind of sick of Mario Williams. Yeah, we liked his tenure here, but we kind of want him gone. And that's coming from someone who has had a very productive career. So that says a lot. If the fan base wants a guy who's, he's almost a 100-sack guy, Kyle. He's 4 away from getting 100 sacks. He's had a highly productive career. But like you said, we don't want him. We're kind of kicking him out. If I was the Jets, I wouldn't want to take that.
Yeah, completely agree. So that's that. No, we don't think Mario Williams is coming here. And I have an inkling that this question is coming from Joe Corey, who made an appearance on the Let's Talk Jets podcast a week ago. Joe Corey is a former NFL agent. He writes for CBS and I think the National Football Post, amongst others, writing about, contract negotiations, salary cap, amongst other things. He went on to talk Jets cap and their situation, guys they might pursue, potential contract figures, etc. So I know he's the one that kind of, at least in the Jet circles that I'm aware of, is the one that floated this out there. And yeah, I just don't see it happening at all. The Jets have went after older players, but I think the Revis thing is kind of a little bit different when you talk about a guy who you drafted, a guy who probably will make the Hall of Fame, who many fans had such a bad taste when you let him go. I mean, there was other factors in, other than it was a huge need for the Jets, needing a cornerback. There was also, Woody Johnson and Mike McCagnon's ear saying, we want Darrelle Revis back. So that all plays into it as well. Gary, as we said before, this is a slow period, so we're going to have a shorter show than usual. No more questions in the Twitterverse, no more emails. Deshawn had his trivia. Ron Canniff was on earlier, had a nice extensive interview with him. Anything else on your mind before we close out this show?
No, Kyle, nothing much. I think we're diving into it. I'm chomping at the bit for this free agency period to come up.
Yeah, and Gary, I know that you don't want the Bills to be big spenders in free agency either. I know that you said you're kind of in the Doug Whaley mindset, re-sign our own. Cordy Glenn and Richie Incognito are, priorities 1A and B. Gary, look at guys out there. This is the same question I posed to Ron. None of us want to see our teams be big spenders in free agency. We don't want to go out there and get the big fish, the Ndamukong Suh. But who is a guy who can come in at a reasonable contract? Because most GMs would say that free agency is a need-based approach. You go on a free agency and you try to fill needs. You try to fill holes. Draft is kind of more of a talent-based approach. You're going to take, on average, need always factors in there, but you're going to take the best players available. So, Gary, when you look at the holes in the Bills roster, who is a guy that could come in on a bargain deal that you would like in a Buffalo Bills uniform?
Without a doubt, there's a couple of names that stick out to me. Number one, I think Courtney Upshaw. Here's a guy who was drafted as an edge rusher, and he has 5 career sacks. But he's a great edge setter. He does get some pressure. Obviously, he's not going to get paid because, when he only produced 5 sacks from 2012, that doesn't show you a lot. And, he's even when Terrell Suggs went down, it was his year to step up and be the man. Really wasn't in the pass rushing role. But he is someone, you look at his tackling numbers, he's got excellent amount of tackles. So I like him. I like him in a 3-4. I think he's someone that Rex likes. A strong, stout guy. Another guy I like is Rolando McClain. Here's a guy who's had off-the-field issues, character issues, but had some productive seasons for Dallas. I would say he's someone that I would be interested in the Bills having. Here's another interesting name, Kyle. Vernon Davis had his best career year under Greg Roman. Greg Roman loves the 2 tight end system, Delaney Walker, Vernon Davis. I don't think he's going to get paid much. He hasn't been a productive player and he's getting up there in age, but I think that you could see him in a Bills uniform. And
I think he would come really cheap, but I just don't know that he has anything left.
I agree with that, but why not? You give a little flyer deal. Why not? Right now, it's either Vernon Davis, Chris Gregg, Nick O'Leary, or Marquise Gray, and none of those names will beaters. So maybe him and Charles Clay, Charles being the man, Vernon Davis being second. But Greg Roman likes to run a 2 tight end system. We saw last year that Chris Gregg and Matthew Mulligan were on the field a bunch of times with Charles Clay also being there. Here's another name that the Bills have openly stated. Doug Whaley's openly stated, and even their head of pro personnel, Jim Monos, is saying we need someone to complement Sammy Watkins. So I wouldn't doubt me that the Bills are either going to draft a wide receiver or look for one. And obviously they voided Percy Harvin's contract, so he's no longer with the team. And I don't think they view Robert Woods as a viable number 2. I think they view him more as a slot guy. And I'll tell you this right now, Kyle. I know we're talking about Chris Hogan many a times. The Bills are going to have him gone. They're not going to – he's a restricted free agent. They're not going to put a tenure on him. I think Robert Woods is going to fill into that slot role. And they're going to look for a number 2, whether that's coming the draft or free agency, but they're not going to go and spend a boatload. I'd tell you this, another name that I'd be interested in getting is Brian Quick from Los Angeles Rams. So I got hard for me to get used to saying that, Kyle.
Yeah, it is. That's an intriguing name. I kind of like that name. Do you have any interest in Marvin Jones?
I'd like to get a big body guy, to be honest. Marvin Jones is 6 foot, 182. He's a good downfield threat, I tell you that. But he's going to come a lot more expensive. He even actually said last week he's not going to give Cincinnati a hometown discount. So I think he's looking to get top dollar, and the Bills won't be spending that. Give a guy, Brian Quick, he's flashed. He's been injured in the past. He's been in Jeff Fisher's doghouse in favor of Kenny Britt. In my opinion, that maybe that's the guy you go after.
Yeah, I like that. And yeah, why would Marvin Jones give a hometown discount? I mean, listen, he hasn't really gotten paid thus far in his career. He's a guy who's been injury-ridden. He knows that his window is short, and the time to get paid is now because he might not be looking at a third contract anywhere. So I don't blame him for not wanting to get as much money as possible.
I'm going to ask you the same question, Kyle. What would be your couple of your bargain basement deals? Because you know the Jets, Mo Wilkerson, Fitzpatrick are going to take a boatload of what the Jets are looking to spend in free agency. Who would be the guys otherwise besides them that the Jets would have to look towards?
Yeah, honestly, I cannot really think of a guy who's going to come in at what you would say a reasonable price, a bargain basement deal. I can't really honestly think of any other than maybe resigning one of our own, like a Leger Douzable. I really don't think Bilal Powell is going to break the bank anywhere. And I say that not because of what he did on the field, but I do think that a lot of teams view him kind of as a limited player. You're not a player you're going to give the ball to on 3 downs, not a great runner. I think he's a pretty good receiver, but he also has injury concerns. I mean, he missed, 6 games this year, and, he's missed some games, other parts of previous seasons as well. So I would like to see the Jets mostly just kind of re-sign their own. I mean, if we're going to go out there and we're going to spend on guys who they're definitely not going to get outrageous contracts, I don't think. I mean, maybe the one guy will. I just don't see it. I would like one of the Broncos linebackers. I was floating the name out there, Brandon Marshall, a couple times, but you said you're more of a Trevathan guy, and after watching him in the Super Bowl, watching him in the AFC Championship game, I'd have to agree with you. I would really like him. I just don't think that we're going to be able to afford him and really pursue him. But that's a guy I would love to see in the Jets uniform because we really could use some speed. I think he's a player, plays with high intensity, and we really need to shore up the linebacker spot.
Yeah, I think actually I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to go on the record. I'm going to say Trevathan is going to probably make the most money during free agency out of the linebacker position.
I could see it. Yeah, I could definitely see that. So maybe that doesn't totally answer your question.
But here's another one that I've been hearing, you being a Jets fan, maybe you can answer this. Jets are actually talking about making Aaron Henderson a priority as well as the other names that we've mentioned.
You know what, and I should have brought him up too. It just totally slipped my mind. But yeah, I like him a lot, and I definitely would like to see him back. And you're not going to have to break the bank at all to get him. I mean, you're talking about a player that was completely out of the league because of his alcohol issues. But he came back. He was a good citizen. And we saw it when he was in the lineup versus Demario Davis, tremendously better. He could give you something on blitzing downs, much better in coverage, stout against the run, and he progressively got better as the season went on. And he's like, 28, 29 years old. It's not like he's on the back end of his career. I think he's got a couple solid years left in him. So, yeah, I would definitely like him. It's not to keep him. He might get less money in free agency than Demario Davis just when you factor in the amount of games that Demario Davis has logged in recent years. But, Demario Davis is as good as gone. The Jets have no interest in him. They do want to bring Aaron Henderson back, and I completely would agree with that. I definitely want him back.
Yeah, and the Jets will. I think, like you said, the Jets and the Bills, they have pretty much established and a lot of depth on both teams. They're going to be focusing on their own players. Maybe one or two guys off the street that haven't been in a uniform. But if you're a Jets or Bills fan, don't expect a lot this off season.
Yeah. Even another name that a lot of Jets fans are happy about but don't really see it happening is Mitchell Schwartz, right tackle from the Cleveland Browns. His brother, Jeff Schwartz, was just recently cut by the Giants. Jeff Schwartz, by the way, he has his own podcast called the Block 'em Up Podcast. He does it with another guy named Duke something, who was either
Duke
some
Preston.
type of Duke Preston. Was he an offensive line coach or what?
He is currently, I believe, he's an assistant coach. I can't remember what team, but he was actually a former Buffalo Bill, Kyle.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty good show. I mean, I like how they bring on former offensive linemen, current offensive linemen. They had on Jonathan Ogden right before the Super Bowl, and, he was kind of talking about how, giving some locker room stories, talking about how Dwight Freeney was the hardest guy to block just because of, his low center of gravity, the spin move kind of unmatched. He didn't really face anyone else that could spin like that. They had on Ryan Harris after the Super Bowl. So, and then they get into technique every now and then. So those of us, Gary and I, we both played some offensive line in high school. It's kind of cool to get into that aspect of the game. So, but yeah, his brother is going to be a free agent, Jeff Schwartz's brother, Mitchell. When you look at how bad the Jets' offensive line play was, they could cut Breno, not face any cap charges for that. And, that you're talking, either $4 or $5 million, whatever it is that you get off the books. And obviously you're going to have to pay more than that annually to get Mitchell Schwartz, but is the trade-off worth it, getting a player that's better and, you're getting Breno's contract off the books? I still don't see it happening regardless, but maybe, some people are saying that Andre Smith might come cheaper. And I don't think that you get overly excited by either two of those names, but the thing is Breno is so bad that you're looking for any type of upgrade.
Kyle, I was hearing, I know we only wrap this up real quick, but the Jets are already, I mean, listen, put it this way. Breno is as good as gone, I believe, in my opinion. Whether he's more of a reserve role, but he will not be the starting right tackle in the New York Jets, mark my words. I heard there might be an in-house replacement. I can't think of the guy's name.
Brent Qualley.
There you go.
I mean, it's hard for me to necessarily say, you know what, Qualley is the next thing. Supposedly the Jets really like him, but from the little I've seen of him, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hearing. But from what I've seen from him in the preseason games, he kind of looks like a big doofus to me. I'm thinking about big doofuses in the media a lot lately. Most notably comes to mind Jeb Bush. Yeah, hey, Gary, did you hear it? Jeb Bush, supposedly he let his internet domain name run out. He didn't pay the fee. So Donald Trump went and bought it up.
Donald is awesome. He's a savage. I mean, who does that? I mean, he's just beating Jeb Bush on all fronts. Yeah, he let his domain run out, and now if you click on Jeb Bush, directs you to Donald J. Trump. Pretty funny.
That was hilarious. Jasmine told me that just before, maybe a half hour or so before we got on, and I was dying laughing. But
I think Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump gets a certain sense of gratitude, kind of sticking it to Jeb Bush more than any other candidate.
He definitely does, and it boosts his rankings for sure. But regardless, not a political podcast, but. Yeah, I mean, Qualley, going back to him, I just remember him committing penalties and stuff, and I get it. That type of stuff, it's going to happen with starters in the preseason, but I just wasn't overly impressed. I went to Jets practices here or there. He never stood out to me. So supposedly they're high on him, and, I obviously don't see him practicing during the season, and maybe he took significant strides during the season. I don't know. But, yeah, supposedly they're high on him, and listen, it's hard to imagine him being much worse than Breno, and when you factor in the difference in salary, it's hard not to the season with Qualley as the starter. And you know what? I talked about Qualley getting penalties, but it's hard to imagine him getting less or getting more penalties than Breno, because Breno, him and Willie Colon, that right side, they're always getting into penalties. Willie Colon's not even suited up for games, and he's getting into penalties. Think about the New York Giants game back on December 6th. How do you get a penalty and you're not even suited up? Amazing.
Yeah.
But, I would like to see a tackle, and I would like to see a linebacker, and I don't honestly see us getting a viable option that's going to come out of house. If we do get them, as you said, I think they'll be in-house guys. Aaron Henderson and maybe Qualley. But maybe we'll get someone else who's not even on my radar, who is much less significant than the guys that we mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, someone's going to come to the Jets organization that has to be replacing those guys. Those are two big holes. And DeMario Davis, like I said, I think Aaron Henderson flashed good. Definitely a lot better in coverage than DeMario Davis. Wouldn't surprise me. He was a quality starter for the Minnesota Vikings until he got in trouble. I think you already found your in-house replacement right there. And Breno, I mean, maybe the draft. I don't know,
Yeah, and hopefully the Jets do their due diligence to make sure that he doesn't leave that building.
Yeah.
So. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for another edition of AFC East Bros. Beginning this week, you'll see it probably tomorrow. I'm going to start uploading our shows to YouTube as well, so you can catch us on there. No, you're not going to be able to see me and Gary talking. It's not going to be any visual, but it's just another avenue for people to become familiar with the show. So I will be uploading these videos to YouTube, but it will just be audio only. So you can also check us out on there. As always, you can check us out on Stitcher, iTunes. I guess there's some other type of thing. I don't know if it's TuneIn Radio or something. I guess I got to get us on there as well. But we'll be on there. Finally getting some emails. You can email us always at afceastbros@gmail.com. The number to call in is 302-202-1102, and the PIN number is 419689. Everything's got kind of a ring, kind of got a little rhyme to it. I know it's a dead period right now, but we always love hearing from you guys. Call in, give us some trivia like Deshawn did. I personally have a lot of fun with that. I don't know about you, Gary.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. 7 out of 8 questions, not bad. What percentage is that? It's a good 80-some%.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to do it for us, Kyle and Gary. We're out, and we will see you next week.